basic warm-ups. The way I like to do warm-ups is in a way that I can easily remember them in the future. So what I do is usually start from the top and work my way down. So the first one I like to do is arms up, point your fingers up, and circle. And every time you circle, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Don't worry about going fast on this. This isn't exercise or stretch or a warm-up routine about being fast. This is just about getting your muscles warmed up and going. Now this time we're going to go the other way, but as we go the other way, the circle is going to get smaller and smaller. Remember, we're not moving with our wrists or elbows, we're circling with our shoulders. Okay, good. Now the next one, take your hands, put your fingers here, touching your shoulders. Big circles. We're going to make big circles with our elbows. Again, not concerned with speed. Concerned about just good, fluid motions. Other way. Try your best in these warm-ups not to make any herky-jerky, quick motions like that. If your muscles are not warmed up, that could be bad. Okay, good. Stop. Now, tilt your head to the side. A lot of people will say you don't need to warm up because you're not able to warm up before a real life self-defense situation. I disagree with them. Well, I'm pretty sure that you're not usually able to warm up before a real life self-defense street situation. Now tilt your head back. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't warm up when you could. Head down. So warm up as much as you could, and to say what they say, to me, sounds like them saying, well, at some point in your life, you're going to be in a swimming pool where a little kid's going to pee in the swimming pool, so you should always just be in a pool that a little kid swims in or pees in the swimming pool. I think that's bad logic. So head up, look over your left shoulder. So anytime you are, if you unfortunately ever do find yourself in a real life on the street self-defense situation, tilt your head the other way. Yes, that is true. You'll probably not be able to warm up, and your performance will probably suffer for it, and later you may even get some injuries because of it. I know I have. Head straight, but hopefully we'll never be in that situation, but we can be in a regular practice workout routine, and so that will occur much more often, so you should warm up. You should stretch out. So, now put your feet together, hands on your hips. Now we're going to circle with our hips. Try not to circle with your head. Big circles with your hips. It's called the hula stretch. I think it's obvious why. Other way. I find this a very helpful stretch, especially if for us older people, if you are driving a lot, you're in the car a lot, and my lower back starts to ache after a while, and I think this helps with that. I am not a doctor though, so please consult your physician. So now we're going to move down further. Stand on one foot, and the other foot's going to come up on the toes. From here, circle. Circle the other way. Good. Switch. Circle. Circle the other way. Good. Stop. Now we went from head to toe, so now we're going to kind of go back up just a little bit. So hands here, circle the wrist. Circle the other way. I've seen some instructors and some schools do it where they go back and forth and back. That's fine too, whatever works best for you. Just be really careful if you've not warmed up your wrists, stretched those out yet. If you do it very quickly in a jerking sort of motion, it might actually hurt your wrist a little bit, so go slow. Okay, good. Now, usually what I do from there is I usually go down to the ground. Hopefully you'll be indoors or in a nice spot, not outside like this, but I'm going to make the sacrifice so you learn. So we're going to be on the ground. Put your feet out. This is for the inside of the legs. You really do, if you can, want this to be stretched out, warmed up if possible. It helps movement a lot. The times that I have injured myself in sort of self-defense, real life self-defense situations where I didn't have time to warm up was always in this area here on the inside of my leg. All right, so hands up over your head. Gonna go side to side, touch both hands to one foot. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Now, stay right there. In this stretch, if you bring your legs back in or bend your knees between the sets, it's almost like you have to restart, like you've lost some of your progress. So now, take one leg, stretch it back a little bit further. You can do both legs, but to me, I think it's easier just to do one leg. So hands up. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Now, take the other leg. We're doing 3 sets of this. Stretch it out just a little bit further. Hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Excellent. Now, from there, what we're going to do is take our hands, put them in front, right here. Now, if that starts to give you a little bit of a stretch, you start to feel a little bit uncomfortable at that point, that's where you need to stop. But if you can, kind of walk your hands out just a little bit further so that you lean forward a little bit further. If you still feel comfortable, go a little bit further. If you don't, stop right there. If you feel okay, go a little bit further. And remember, there's different types of pain, really. There's, well, I'm slightly uncomfortable pain. And then there's, I just heard something go snap, crackle, or pop. That second one, that's when you need to stop or take a step back. A little bit further. If you can. If you can't, that's okay. Hold where you're at. Or even retract a little bit. If you can, keep on going till you can get all the way down, forehead to the ground. Then when you're done, very slowly, come back up. Don't go fast. Now for this next one, always been a bit of a challenge for me, even when I was a kid. Pull your feet in together. Grab your feet with both hands. Stay there as you breathe in through your nose. Try to relax your legs. Do not make this like bobbing up and down motion. That actually is pretty bad for you. So just kind of relax. Stay there as you breathe in. Breathe out. Pull your forehead down. Your goal is to get your nose to your toes, if you can. But again, you get to a point where it's too uncomfortable. You hear something go snap, crackle, or pop, you should stop. Stay there as you breathe in. Breathe out. Okay. Usually you want to do that, hold that for about 10 seconds. Further if you need to, or for a longer period if you need to. Or you can do a little bit shorter time and build up to a bigger time if you like. So that's the basic warm-ups. At the end, you could even add squats and push-ups, which is what we do a lot of times in our in-person classes. All right,
So, for those of you who have not trained with me before, I have a different take on staves, but it is based on history. I feel like a staff and a spear is basically the same thing. That's not just me. If you look at all the European schools, the old school European schools that came out with staff fighting, 14, 15, 16, 1700s, they look at it almost exactly the same way. And so there's very little difference between staff and spear, because if I stab you with this really hard, that's going to hurt. So if I have a spear, sure it'll hurt more, but the motion's the same, the attack is the same, everything else. If you look at a lot of the Asian schools, they do this grip and they'll hold the staff in the middle. That's okay sometimes, occasionally, the way I look at it, depending on what you're trying to do. And we will do some of that stuff. But in my opinion, if you're going to do that, you might as well just have 2 sticks. Because if you look, where are you for a second? If you look, if I'm going to hit him, and I'm using this, and I go out to hit him like this, well, the range I have there is about here. If I had a single stick, I could probably get a little bit further range. So with this, you're limiting your range. You are gaining leverage, and you can do different things with that, and we'll talk about that some. But you can do the same thing with spear. So I don't really want to get into so much of those maneuvers, those techniques, but we will do it slightly. Thank you. All right. Any questions on that before we get started? So let's do a little bit of warm-up.
Just in regards to the staff as opposed to spear, weight difference, are you assuming that the spears are balanced to the center, or is there any kind of compensation we should be aware of?
No, but most fighting spears, they either were balanced and have something on the end to counterbalance the spearhead, or the spearhead really wasn't that heavy. Like if you train with a real one, like a bladed spear, yeah, it's a little bit off balance, but it's not enough that really messes with the technique. But the way we're going to use range, it doesn't really matter for the most part. All right, no problem. All right, so a little bit of staff warm-ups here. So first one, hold it out here. So let it kind of hang down. Bring it up and down, just like this. I'm going to try to go through pretty fast tonight because staff/spear is one of my favorite things to teach. So if you forget, don't worry, we are recording it. Assuming I took a lens cap off. Yeah, okay, good. Good, that's good to know. All right, good. Now, when we talk about striking with a staff, especially if you are doing it in the Asian sort of style where it's like this, but even if not, you're going to use your hips. Just like in Happy Gilmore, it's all in the hips. So one of our stretches is going to be for that, okay? So hold the staff back here. We're going to turn there and there. Turn around. Around. Stretch. Okay, good. Now, if you want to go a little bit further into more of a technique area, you do the same thing, except let go with one arm, and let the staff roll behind with the other. And you switch. If you only have one arm for whatever crazy reason, just sort of stick and just go back and forth with that one.
Bear witness to my unarmed combat.
Yes.
I saw a picture of a guy that had no arms, but he had a pistol on his belt. the meme was like, I've never seen a man both be armed and unarmed at the same time.
Now, when we do talk about the spins and this kind of stuff, that's really one of the best things we can do with the spin is don't think of it like in a martial arts, like an actual self-defense, or you're going to use this in combat situation. Like, you see these big giant spins like this or whatever, that kind of stuff. That's fun and that's cool and that's great, but you're not going to ever really do that in a real self-defense situation. We can do that if y'all want. That's cool. We can do that all day. But what that does teach is transitioning, which is super important. So let's talk about that transition. And this will be one of our warm-ups. So, man, I wish this was a real spear. I would just stab it. So let's think of it this way. There's a giant hourglass in front of us, okay? And you can keep your stabs in your hand right now, or you can put them down, either one. And one hand starts at the top of the hourglass, the other's at the bottom, other side. And you kind of, like you're cleaning the hourglass with two opposites, right? Here. Okay? Just like that. But it's also in Tai Chi, the same motion. Right? Yep, just like that. Okay, so that's your crane block when you do it unarmed, with arms and without a staff, unstaffed. But if we're here, now it's that. Okay? So one arm up, one arm down. This is a spear grip. If both of your thumbs, if they could point to the tip, that's a spear grip. If your thumbs are pointing towards each other, that's a staff grip. Okay? So we're going to do spear grip with this. And put it over. There you go. Just like that. That's your transition. In my opinion, transitioning with a weapon is one of the most important things you can do with a staff / spear. If not the most important, really. That and finding your range. And not to brag, but us as a spear fighting school, / staff, we're actually really good at it, I feel like. That and knife, kind of our two things. And thugging people, basically. Running into them and causing damage. Alright, so that's our transition that way. Okay? Now, in traditional Kung Fu, with staff, they have a transition where what they do is they basically throw it, your front hand stays loose, and you catch it at the bottom. So if you look at a lot of the Kung Fu staffs, that's why they start smaller at the top and they taper down and they're bigger at the bottom. A lot of them, especially spears. So it's here and there. Now, while they would do that, say my left arm is the lead arm, then I'd step. Right? Then step. Then step. Sounds a little tricky, so let's try that again. So, left side forward, left side's my loose arm. Now, this is okay for a transition, if I'm being honest. It's not one I use a lot for a transition, although I do use it sometimes. But it is really good for getting used to finding range, okay? So we're here, our backhand, thrust it forward, and then we grab it as close to the end as we can, then we step. All right, so same thing again. There, then step. There. Step. Step. Okay. There. Do that a couple more times. That's a kind of a tricky one. If you look in any of the martial arts spas places, they'll have a white wax wood staff. That's what they call it. It tapers at the bottom, and it does it specifically for that transition. And you're switching your forward hand on that. I know Robbie and Nick, they both know that technique pretty good. If you fight specifically with spear in the SCA, that's a well-used technique.
It's a standard step.
Yeah. Well, and when you're doing any of that stuff, really, you can do your single step, like a standard one motion step, or you can step through the back leg in the double step. Okay? Just like that. All right. Any questions on that? That's not new to most of you all, I think. All right, so let's talk about the range with the staff, like I was talking about, okay? And then we'll go back and forth. Now, when we're talking about the range, holding at the end. This is, if you look in all the European manuscripts where they're staff fighting, it's almost always this way. and they have the same philosophy I do, why waste your range? The whole idea of a giant stick is I can hurt him before he gets to me. If it's here, I basically have a stick. If he has a stick, we're equal, and I don't want that. I don't want to be equal. I want to have the advantage. So from here, what we're going to do is our front hand is going to be loose again, okay? Our back hand is going to be like we're rowing, like rowing a boat. Slam it over. You can make a big motion if you want for warming up, right? But in actual self-defense combat, you probably will make a smaller motion, and you can pivot with your back foot. Works really good with the spear. Staff also. Big motion or small motion. Big motion, small motion. So you transition to the other side. Do the same thing. I'm going to row the boat. Your front hand doesn't have to do much. It just kind of, well, specifically in this technique, but really any staff or spear technique where you got a lot of movement going on, that front hand's more like the guide. Most of your power comes from your back hand. Right? Good. There's your staff. You don't have to bring the front hand all the way back up here. You don't have to do that. You can, but you can leave it. You can leave it right exactly there, in the same place in space-time. Now, if you do bring it up, that's okay. But if you're going to bring it up, a lot of times it's used for a block, or do it as with a step. So let's try that. We're going to do that with a step. Here, bring the front hand all the way up as you're still moving the back hand. Here, then step it out. You can get good distance that way. Now, so talk about one thing. I know I went on for what seemed like 30 minutes talking about how this is not my favorite, okay? So, if we're talking about it purely as a spear, one of your problems is, especially if you're going spear as it is in SCA fighting rules, is if they get on you, they get close to you, you're doomed, right? So, so if he's here, and I stab and miss, or maybe he blocks, and he comes up on me now, I have nothing I can do. Especially in SCA rules. Now, if you think of this as a staff, or you're fighting outside of SCA rules, if you pull it back and you get that half guard, that staff grip, then you can do things like hit, and all that. But it's still really difficult. It's not the easiest thing in the world, especially to hit. So you're better, and if you watch people who fight with similar weapons, like two-handed axes and stuff, they basically just resort to grappling with it. You know, here, pull it in, that kind of stuff, or wrenching, twisting, pushing, that kind of stuff. So that's probably your best option. Does that make sense? Yes, no? Maybe. Thugging, yes. You're going to go thugging. Thug it up. So, but one of your options on that is doing the same motion, except instead of far back getting the range, you're basically doing the same thing, close, you're changing the grip to a staff grip, holding the middle, same thing, right? Because from there, that causes that leverage to happen that we want. Right? Okay. So any questions on all that stuff? All right, so let's talk about range real quick for a second, and then we'll move on to some really traditional Kung Fu stuff with the staff. So that is the big power of the staff or spear. Any shafted weapon like this is the range, but still your footwork is what makes you powerful with that. So that tree there, if I stand here and I stab with my back arm, so I'm left side forward, my left leg's forward, I'm stabbing, and let's say it's a staff, okay? It's not a spear tip, it's just a staff. Still, I'm gonna stab. So I'm not gonna reach it. But if this is extended to my full length, if I change my feet, watch this. Now I'm a little bit closer. Because when my left foot was forward, my right arm's back, basically your shoulder is going to stay above your hip. Your hip's going to stay roughly above your foot. So that means I was losing about this much space. But then when I shift to right side forward, I gain that much space. Right? Does that make sense? Because the position of the shoulder. The shoulder controls the arm controls the staff. So even with that, when I'm fighting with a staff or a spear, I take a right side forward stance. And my guard's here. That way I can slap, I can push, I can stab. But also from here, I can take a real simple little lunge sort of step. And now the tree is definitely within my range. Okay? So let's all try that. And that's what I want you to think about with a staff, is try to work the range first. You should have them beat way before they ever get close enough where we have to start going into thuggery. Right? So let's all try that on my count. So 1. Okay, switch your arm or switch your forward foot. Either switch your arm or switch your forward foot.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have to think about it.
So okay, we all do. It's no big deal. So here. So there you go. Perfect. That's it. 2. Let's say 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, good. You can do the same thing on the other foot. We won't bother with it though. And then if you want it to even go further, when you do that move, take a little lunge. If you really want to get some distance, I mean, usually in the tournaments, when we do it, I can get about 15-foot range. Like, it's not a big deal for me to hit you over there. I'll start left side forward, take a little step with my left, then I'll launch with my right. Then it's right there. Right? So that's not that hard from that distance. The big trick is you can't let them know what you're about to do. So try to distract them or get them thinking something else.